Hello underachievers! I just gotta promote a few things before we get into the video. Number one, I am touring America, the United States of America, and I also have one show in Canada, in Toronto. Link to that is in the description below. We also have VIP tickets. You can hang out with me, you can ask me questions, we can take pictures, you can get front row to the gigs, all that cool stuff. But yeah, you'll have a fun time. The shows are really nice, and just lots of gay people, lots of fun. I also have a Patreon link below if you're interested in that, go have a look. But yeah, the title of this video, maybe you were surprised, or maybe you weren't. I thought it would be fun to do an autism test. So I got diagnosed with ADHD 2 years ago, and I feel like that adds up. I feel like I've known my whole life I've probably got ADHD. People would always ask me, hey Noah, do you have ADHD? My teachers would be like, you have ADHD. That was obvious. But recently, I've been reflecting on my life a lot more in therapy, and you know, just looking at my life with a different perspective, and it kind of seems like ADHD isn't the full picture, which is fun and cool. And by the way, I'm just gonna say it right now, this video is not me saying, hi, my name's Noah and this is my voice one day on autism. I am not taking this test as a formal diagnosis. I know that's not what it is. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything. I am not qualified to do anything like that. I'm just saying that if you put my life into perspective, it kind of points towards autism a little bit. A lot of you may be surprised, a lot of you may not be surprised, a lot of you probably don't care, because why would you be thinking about my divergence? And unsurprisingly, there's a lot of people that know very little about autism, and what they do know about autism is kind of just very stereotypical. For a lot of people, when they think of autism, they just think of Sheldon Cooper, or Sherlock Holmes, or Sam from Atypical. And I'm sure some people still think of Rain Man when they think of autism, and you know, what comes to mind? What do people think autism is? A lot of people think about, you know, a lack of ability to make eye contact, a lack of social awareness, an obsession with trains, and not understanding sarcasm. Not all autistic people are the same. The majority of them are nothing alike. And, you know, a lot of people that you wouldn't expect were autistic are autistic. And again, surprise, surprise, a lot of the research done on autism is just done on cis white men, or cis white boys, or young boys. So, you know, a lot of what we know about autism is purely what we know about white men who are autistic. And a lot of people who aren't cis white men go undiagnosed for a long time because they don't fit the stereotypical way that cis white autistic men act. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you my entire life story, but, you know, I kind of came up with a list of things that maybe made me think that I may be autistic, maybe. Gonna start off with my sensory issues. Now, when I started researching for ADHD, I realized that sensory issues are a thing that people with ADHD may struggle with. But the extent that I struggle with sensory stuff is quite intense. My whole life, I've found certain smells, certain tastes, certain textures, certain noises really uncomfortable. Like, distressing to an embarrassing level. And a lot of the time, I feel like life is a sensory nightmare. Just everything is just very overwhelming. I've always had trouble when it comes to variety in my eating, and literally up until 2018, I would just eat the same meal every single day, because I was like, oh, this works, this isn't scary, there's no unexpected textures, there's no unexpected tastes, I know exactly what I'm getting, and I enjoy it, so I'm just not gonna eat anything else. As a kid, I was just labeled fussy, but I don't think fussy quite gets it there, because, like, I would just eat plain pasta every single day. That was all I ate. I would cry if I had to eat anything else. I was just so terrified of food, and looking at it and being like, oh, I don't know what this is gonna taste like, I don't know what the texture's gonna be like, I don't know what the smell's gonna be like. It was just a lot. And I could not eat any sauce until I was 18 or 19, which is insane. It's not insane, it makes sense, but like, I was terrified of sauce. I couldn't eat sauce. I don't like soup. I really hate soup. Corey's been buying me soup every now and then and being like, try this one, maybe this texture's alright. It never is. Soup is horrifying. You could just put anything in a blender and call it soup. I really don't like it. I also experience overstimulation a lot. Which isn't great, because with ADHD, I am constantly understimulated, and it seems like I'm also overstimulated. I don't know how it makes sense, that is just how my brain works. I can't handle a space that has too much visual input, or like auditory input, and I know, like, obviously, like, a lot of people don't like being around lots of noises at once, but the extent of the way it affects me is kind of mad. Like, I have to wear noise-cancelling headphones whenever I take the train, because it's so loud. I almost started crying at, like, my management work drinks because there were too many noises going on at once, and I just couldn't do anything. And that also translates to socializing, and, you know, I really relate to the idea of spoons, where you only have a certain amount of spoons a day, and I feel like, compared to most people, I have not that many spoons. I can socialize with somebody for a few hours, and then I am taken out the entire day, because socializing takes up so much of my energy, and I feel like it's just because it's not a very natural thing for me. I have to constantly think about what I'm saying, and what the other person is thinking, and what they maybe would think if I I said this thing, and it's a lot, and it's not anxiety, because I don't feel anxious when I socialize. It's more just, it's just so much. Like, I have to make an active effort to socialize with people, and I would much prefer to just sit in silence a lot of the time, and to not have anyone look at me, or or even, like, you know, perceive me. And speaking of socializing, I do not struggle nearly as much as I used to do, and I feel like I've been very good at hiding it. Or maybe I haven't, but I feel like I only really know how to speak to people now through trial and error. I feel like socializing with people has been something that I've had to, like, put an effort into. And obviously, classic one, I hate eye contact, and it's not that I just find it uncomfortable, I just hate it. I can do it, but I'm never really looking at someone in the eyes. I'm looking, like, between their eyes, or at their nose. It's just way too intense. And I've even had, like, a bunch of comments of people being like, hey, I love watching your videos, because I'm autistic, and you don't look at the camera that much. But yeah, I always find myself guessing what people mean by what they say, because if I take them by their words literally, a lot of the time I'll misinterpret what they actually mean to say. And when it comes to, like, taking information from people, or being given instructions, I need very specific wording. I find myself misunderstanding people a lot, and I'm good at just laughing it off, because everyone's just like, ha, that was funny! But, you know, it's kind of annoying, kind of an inconvenience, and I've had a lot of people ask me, like, hey, Noah, why do you take things so literally? And I'm like, I don't understand that, because if you don't mean what you say, then why are you saying it? Like, why don't you just say what you mean? I find it hard to read people's tones, and read people's faces. A lot of the time, I will just look at Corey and be like, I don't understand what emotion you're trying to put across with your face right now. Like, sometimes we'll just be sat in the living room, and I'll be like, what are you feeling? Because I can't tell. But, you know, saying all this, I'm still, you know, I'm doing a lot better socially than I ever have been. I'm pretty good at doing it now in comparison to how I was, but I feel like a lot of that is down to the fact that the majority of the people that I socialize with are also neurodivergent, or, you know, have ADHD or autism, so they communicate in the same way as me. And a big thing that I was thinking about this recently is, you know, looking at my childhood. As I said, I used to just grunt at people sometimes, and I went through very obsessive phases, and I know that's kind of normal for kids. Kids get really obsessed with a few things and then they get bored, but I feel like the level that I was obsessed with things was kind of jarring. I had a Spider-Man phase for like at least a year in which I would only wear Spider-Man costumes. Every day all I thought about was Spider-Man. I had 3 costumes. I had one in the cupboard, I had one on me, I had one in the wash. It's pretty much the only thing I would wear. I would wear it to preschool. I would just wear it everywhere. The same thing happened with Peter Pan, same thing happened with Oliver Twist. For a good few years I would just come home from school and watch the exact same thing every single night, and then go on to eat pretty much the exact same thing every night. And those kind of like obsessions, I don't know if I'm autistic or not, but special interest kind of applies. I don't know, this is hard. I don't want to upset anyone, but like, I get so hyper-focused on specific things, and I know that's a part of ADHD as well. And I feel like, I don't know, I've been watching a bunch of, you know, YouTubers with autism and ADHD, and I've never felt so seen in my life. And, you know, I felt even more seen than when I watched, like, trans YouTubers, when I was just discovering I was trans. Like, I watched a video, like, a few months ago of this lady with autism and ADHD, and everything she said applied to me. And I obviously don't want to be one of those people that's just like, oh, I see a few TikToks about autism and I think I'm autistic, because I've seen a lot of autistic people complain about people like that recently. But this is something that's kind of been affecting me my whole life, and just watching those videos was just like eye-opening, because my whole life I thought I was just weird. I thought I just didn't fit in, but I know that my brain works different. And even a lot of other people with ADHD, like, I relate to some of the stuff that they have, but they do not relate to the extent of the stuff that I struggle with. It's just kind of how I live my life. Big thing with autism is not being able to deal with change, and that is a big thing in my life. I feel like I am constantly overwhelmed. Any amount of change in my life, whether it be a big one or a small one, will completely incapacitate me for the entire day. Like, I'll plan something for the morning, and if the plans get cancelled, I will just freak out and not be able to do anything for the entire day. And you can imagine all the stuff that I've been doing recently, like touring and like going into studios and writing with people. Very overwhelming, but like, you know, I cannot handle change. No matter how much I try and like think myself out of it, if there's a change of plan last minute, I am gone for the day. So when it comes to how I live my life now, there are a few quirks. I own 30 pairs of the same socks, because I only wear those socks. There's the occasion where I will wear a different pair of socks if it works with my outfit, but the entire night I will be thinking about how my socks don't fit right, and how the material isn't the material that I'm used to. I just have the exact same pair of socks. I just wear them every single day. And I do the same with outfits. I only have a few outfits that I can stand to wear for a whole day, because the seams are not touching me in an uncomfortable way. Everything in my house has a very specific place, and if things are not in their very specific place, I cannot focus. I cannot do anything. I'll be sat in the living room and be like, the kitchen roll is in the wrong place, the spatula is dirty, and it's not by the sink where it should be. It's like, I can't. It's really annoying, actually. Anytime I have to get any work done and things are out of place in my room, I have to spend like an hour just tidying things, just making sure they're in the right place, and then I'll go around the whole house and make sure everything else is in the right place. I also have every single day of my life planned on my notes page, and I have had that for the past like 3 years. But anyway, these are just a few things I've experienced. I'm kind of scared that people are going to listen to these and be like, oh, well, this explains this, and this is a thing that everybody deals with. It's not just these little specific issues, it's kind of just everything. You'll see, I'm gonna take the test. Obviously, a formal diagnosis will go into way more detail than this, and it will look at your entire life, and it's not just a 10 to 30 minute test that you can take on the internet. But here is the RADS R test. RADS. I don't know how to pronounce that. RAADS R test. I've linked it below. Feel free to take it with me. I am a sympathetic person. What do you mean by that? I hate tests like this. Maybe this will not be fun, because I don't like, when I get asked a question, I get stressed that I'm not gonna answer it accurately. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, you can ask me this question, but it depends on the context, and it depends on the extent of what you're asking for. Anyway, shut up. Sympathetic. Yes, you know, people have feelings, and I give them sympathy. True now and when I was young. I was lovely as a child. I would carry people's bags because they were too heavy for them. I often use words and phrases from movies and television in conversations. I do not do that anymore because I find it embarrassing, because people always notice, but I used to do that when I was younger. True only when I was younger than 16. I'm often surprised when others tell me I've been rude. Yes, true now and when I was young. I often get like really annoyed when people tell me I've been rude. Not annoyed at them, but just annoyed at myself, because like a lot of the frustrations that I have and a lot of the arguments that I have with people in my life are just based off me not really understanding. Like, somebody will ask me a question and I'll answer it honestly, and people will be like, that's kind of rude what you said. And I was like, I did not. I am always trying to be nice. But yeah, I get upset and I get really annoyed at myself and frustrated at myself that I didn't know that I was being rude, or I didn't know that something I said was gonna upset someone, because I am always overthinking about like every social interaction I have. And like, I think about the tone of how I speak all the time because I want to get it right, and a lot of the time I don't get it right. But yeah, given the opportunity to be rude, I would not take it purposely. Sometimes I talk too loudly or too softly and I'm not aware of it. True now and when I was young. Yes, I am very loud sometimes, and a lot of the time I'm very quiet because I'm not speaking loud enough. I am more aware of this now than when I was before, but it's still difficult to regulate. I often don't know how to act in social situations. Often, I mean, I don't put myself in situations really with people that aren't also neurodivergent. A lot of the time when I don't know how to act, I'll be around other people that are also neurodivergent, and I'll literally just be like, hey, I have no idea how I'm supposed to be talking here. Like, I will vocalize that. I'm just gonna say true now and when I was young, especially when I was young. I can put myself in other people's shoes. This is a very strong yes, and also a very, very, very strong no. I can like conceptualize how other people are feeling, and I can like logically understand it. Like, if something bad happens to someone, I can be like, oh, well, like, obviously they feel this particular way because this bad thing happened to them, and that would affect them negatively, so of course they're gonna feel bad. But other times, like referencing the earlier question, like sometimes I'll upset somebody because I have come across a way that I did not intend to come across, and it's very difficult for me to understand why somebody is hurt by something I said. Because when I try to put myself in their shoes, I'll be like, oh, well, they're upset by this thing because that upsets them, but if I was them, I wouldn't be upset by that. So why are they upset by that? Obviously because they're a different person, but it's very hard for me to feel that. I can understand it logically, I can't necessarily feel it emotionally, if that makes sense. I'm just gonna say never true, because more often than not I can put myself in other people's shoes. It's just very occasionally when I can't. Is that gonna skew the results? Probably. I have a hard time figuring out what some phrases mean, like, you are the apple of my eye. Yeah, sure. It's weird because like the writer in me is like, oh, I understand wordplay, I understand what you're doing there. I don't understand why you would say it though. I only like to talk to people who share my special interests. Never true. I find people very interesting. I learn a lot from just looking at people interact and socialize. And, you know, yeah. No. I like to talk to people who don't share my special interests. Although sometimes going to a party, there have been a few times where I've been to parties with people that are like, I don't want to sound like a loser, but like people who are normal, you know what I mean? People that aren't like neurodivergent, people that aren't queer, people that have like normal jobs. I find it very difficult to have conversations with them unless there's a very specific thing or a topic that we both mutually like, and then I just go all in on that. I'm like, oh, you like rats? I love rats so much. Let's talk about rats for like 4 hours. I focus on detail rather than the overall idea. True now and when I was young. God, yeah, it's horrible. I will get stuck on specific things. Like when I'm writing a song, I cannot just leave a lyric and be like, oh, I'll come back to that later. Doesn't matter, we'll think about it later. I will like obsess over that lyric, and you know, it's very annoying. It's difficult. I always notice how food feels in my mouth. This is more important to me than how it tastes. True now and when I was young, absolutely. It is the worst thing, especially when I'm trying to, like, you know, build muscle. Eating is just chewing. It is not pleasant a lot of the time, and it's a chore sometimes. I miss my best friends or family when we are apart for a long time. Yes, but also no, it's difficult. I think it's called object permanence with ADHD. If I can't see something, I sometimes completely forget that it exists. When I was in America on tour, you know, like, I missed my friends, but I could text them. I more missed, like, my bedroom and my routine, and, you know, just being able to have foods that I was used to eating. I don't want to upset my friends by saying I never miss them, because I do miss them, but I don't think in the way that, like, a lot of people miss other people. There are a few people that, like, I properly miss. I'm just gonna say never true. That feels really bad. That feels really bad. That feels really bad. Sometimes I offend others by saying what I'm thinking, even if I don't mean to. True now and when I was young. Yeah, I can conceptually understand why people don't like talking about farts and poos and bums, but I will kind of just say whatever comes to my mind, you know, ADHD. I don't really understand why it's inappropriate to talk about some things, unless you're like having like a really fancy dinner. I can understand then why you wouldn't want to bring up taking a massive dump the other day. But I just don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand so many, like, social rules and things that society has decided is, like, inappropriate. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I only like to think and talk about a few things that interest me. I feel like my answer to this contradicts another one of my answers. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I find it very difficult just to talk to other people when it's about, like, banking or maths or football. I cannot. But I think it's rude to not show interest on what people are saying. So, you know, I spend most of the time not enjoying the conversation and just trying to put across with my body language and what I'm saying that, yes, wow, very interesting. I'd rather go out to eat in a restaurant by myself than with someone I know. Never true, that seems like so awkward. Nothing wrong with doing that, of course, but like, I would just be thinking the entire time, oh god, they think I'm alone. Oh god, why do they think I'm alone? And I have a really short attention span. I need to be constantly stimulated, entertained in some way, so no, I can't do that. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be somebody else. Yes, absolute. I have absolutely no clue what it would be like to just be some, like, guy. Just some guy. But it's weird because I have this awareness that I know my brain does not work the same way that a lot of other people's brains work, but I cannot, I know that there's a difference, but I cannot, for the life of me, imagine what it would be like to live in somebody else's shoes in that way. Like, I just can't. I've been told that I'm clumsy or uncoordinated. I've not been told it. I mean, I've like bumped, I am clumsy in a way. I'm very coordinated though. I'm like really good at sports in that way, but a lot of the time I will not pay attention to what I'm doing and then spill milk all over my bed. I understand when friends need to be comforted. This is difficult. I can see someone upset and they can say things that make me think that they're upset, and I can be like, oh, they need emotional comfort or a hug or anything like that. The thing with me that I don't understand is a lot of the time, someone will be upset. They'll be like, oh, this thing happened to me. My brain will instantly be like, oh, okay, you're upset. I want to fix that. I want to help you. Let's think of solutions. Let's figure out a way to get rid of the negative thing that is negatively affecting you. When a lot of the time, people just want, like, emotional support. And I've been told by a good few people that what they want right now is to not be given tips or advice. They just want a hug. Or to be told, hey, yeah, that sucks. I understand you. I still don't understand what people want. I really don't. It's really confusing. I'm just gonna put never true. A lot of the time, I'll just go straight to, you know, fixing their problems. So no. I am very sensitive to the way my clothes feel when I touch them. How they feel is more important to me than how they look. Absolutely, absolutely. I like to copy the way certain people speak and act. It helps me appear more normal. I feel like because of the people I'm surrounded by and because of the people I was raised by, my parents were so happy with me just being weird and doing weird stuff. They did not judge me at all. And the people that I'm around now are also really weird and have really quirky things about them. I don't feel the need to, like, mask around a lot of people. But when I'm in an environment that is not comfortable, that is not familiar, that is not surrounded by people I know, I do like to copy the way that people speak and act. But the question makes me think that, like, people are going out and, like, copying people's exact mannerism and wording and phrases and that kind of stuff. For me, the way that I relate to this question is like, oh, well, I will pick up certain phrases that people have used to prolong a conversation that's just, like, small talk. I'm like, yeah, the weather, right? That's not natural to me. I feel like those things just come out of my mouth because I feel like that's how other people act, and that's the only way to get through the conversation without feeling really stunted socially. Meeting new people is usually easy for me. I would say true only when I was younger than 16. Depends what you mean by easy. Am I going for a handshake? Am I going for a high five? Am I going for a hug? I would rather just go for a hug. Hugs are much easier because sometimes you go for a handshake and they're like, oh, bro, dizzle, my whizzle, you know? I don't understand that. I would say true only when I was younger than 16. It was very difficult when I was younger. Now I feel like I know the words that I'm supposed to say. It is difficult for me to understand how other people are feeling when we are talking. I feel like this happens a lot at parties, but I'll be at a party and someone will be speaking and I feel like I'll understand what they're saying and I've picked up on, you know, the kind of vibe they're putting across, and then I'll come home and speak to Corey about it and he'll be like, oh no, that's actually the opposite of what was happening. I take things too literally, so I often miss what people are trying to say. True now and when I was young, all the time. It's really annoying. It is very difficult for me to understand when someone is embarrassed or jealous. Yes, I can usually notice that something's a little off, but I can't really pinpoint specifically what it is. Some ordinary textures that do not bother others feels very offensive when they touch my skin. Absolutely hate it. Moving on. I get extremely upset when the way I like to do things is suddenly changed. Hell yeah, I hate it so much. It's not that I have a routine. I would love a routine. I would love nothing more than to have a routine. And I'm sure I'd feel absolutely great if I could do a routine. ADHD makes that very, very, very difficult. I will plan to have a routine and I've never been able to follow one. I have never wanted or needed to have what other people call an intimate relationship. No, I require hugs, like, every single day. I speak with a normal rhythm. I don't know, Corey! Do I speak with a normal rhythm?
No, you speak with a strange rhythm.
A strange rhythm.
Do I speak with a normal rhythm?
Do I speak like this normal? But when I'm not on camera, do I speak?
You speak weird all the time. In fact, you're weirder off camera.
True now and when I was young. Yeah, I speak weird. The same sound, color, or texture can suddenly change from very sensitive to very dull. Yes. It's so confusing, because sometimes I can deal with stuff, and then sometimes I can't. Sometimes the sound of a word or a high-pitched noise can be painful to my ears. Yes, oh, the amount of time I spend just doing this. Insane. I cannot tell when someone is flirting with me. Absolutely not. It's really annoying, because sometimes you just want to know. I want to feel that validation, and very rarely will I actually understand someone is flirting with me. And the only time I will understand that they're flirting with me is after having a conversation where we're like, oh, there's a mutual attraction. It's annoying. Yeah, I mean, I invited my best friend to my first date with Corey, because I didn't realize it was a date, because I didn't know that he liked me, even though he obviously was flirting with me, but I just couldn't quite tell. I like to talk things over with my friends. Yes, I do, but sometimes I don't. I'm very good at avoiding how I feel. It can be very hard to read someone's face, hand, and body movements when they're talking. Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird because I'm hypersensitive to changes in tone and body language. But what's really annoying is that I'm hypersensitive to them, but then I can't always interpret them accurately. So someone will change their tone and I'll be like, just confused and just stressed all the time. I feel very comfortable with dating or being in social situations with others. No! God, no. I feel like Corey had to, like, teach me how to date someone. There's so many things that, like, I have to be talked through. And not just when it comes to, like, dating, just, like, specific things. I need, like, very specific instructions of how things work. And I need to be told what people need from me emotionally, which is difficult because sometimes people don't know. Sometimes a thought or a subject gets stuck in my mind and I have to talk about it even if no one is interested. Yeah, you just gotta get it out. I do certain things with my hands over and over again, like flapping, twirling sticks or strings, waving things by my eyes. Yes, all the time. It's very difficult for me to work and function in groups. Oh, yeah, I hate it. Yeah, I would really much rather just work by myself, because I trust myself to get stuff done. I don't trust other people to get stuff done. When I am talking to someone, it is hard to change the subject. If the other person does so, I can get very upset and confused. Yeah, I hate it. I've been in so many conversations where I'm like, oh, this is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever experienced, but I have no idea how to interrupt someone and stop them talking, because I want to be the guy that's just like, listening. Sometimes I have to cover my ears to block out painful noises, like vacuum cleaners or people talking too much or too loudly. Yes, all the time. Really annoying, on the train, in the kitchen, at gigs, just everywhere. Sometimes things that should feel painful are not. Yes, I have such a high pain tolerance. When talking to someone, I have a hard time telling when it is my turn to talk or listen. True now and when I was young, yes, it's exhausting. I have to pay so much attention in order to socialize with people. It takes so much energy out of me. And sometimes you just want to say something, but then someone will keep talking, and then they'll change the subject, and then you can't say what you were going to say, and then you can't bring it back round, and I hate it. I like things to be exactly the same day after day, and even small changes in my routines upset me. Yes! I hate it! Stresses me out! If I am in a place where there are many smells, textures to feel, noises or bright lights, I feel anxious or frightened. Yes, my heart goes pitter-patter. I like to be by myself as much as I can. Yes, I love spending time with myself and not having to speak to people. Corey went away for 8 days and I forgot how to socialize with people. And on the 7th day, I went out to a screening and just being hit with eye contact and conversation and smiling. It was so much. I keep my thoughts stacked in my memory like they're on filing cards, and I pick out the ones I need by looking through the stack and finding the right one. Yes, I know exactly. I'll be like, oh, that was stored in this part of my brain. When I go somewhere, I have to follow a familiar route, or I can get very confused and upset. Yes, I will get lost. I have no sense of direction, and I also will be worrying the entire time. Oh, let's take a new route. The entire time I take the new route, I'll be like, oh, what if it's longer? What if I'm going the wrong way? I would just rather just do the exact same thing. It is difficult to figure out what other people expect of me. Absolutely. I have no idea, and that is a big source of stress. I often overestimate how much people expect from me and then overwork myself. People tell me that I give too much detail. All the time, all the time, all the time. Corey will be like, it sounds like you're lying with the amount of detail that you're giving me. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm just letting you know exactly why I'm late, or exactly how I feel, because then it'll help you understand. I tend to point out other people's mistakes. True, only when I was younger than 16. I know now that people don't like that, and it's not helpful. Score! Total, 161. So, I am very strong evidence for autism. That's cool. I knew that already. Well, that was fun. Hope you enjoyed that. Maybe you learned a thing or two about me, specifically. Probably didn't learn that much about autism, but that's okay. Have a good day or don't. See you later, losers. Goodbye! Phew.